everyone. Today we have Singh sir with us for his novel Storms Verses. Sir, can you please introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, sure. First of all, good afternoon to everyone, and thank you so much for having me. I'm Joydeep Singh, though I write under the name of just Joy. I am 17-year-old, and I'm a student of class 12 STEM, and I'm the author of Storms Verses, my debut poetry collection. In the recent months, that is what has been the most interesting thing for me. I'm really excited to share a little of its journey with you all. That's all.
So, sir, my first question would be, what inspired you to write such poetries?
Well, if we just dive a little into the poetry thing, the whole industry, so we find that there have been many poets throughout the history of the time. So we have seen that not every poet goes like, okay, I have to write this thing and that. So there is that little spark that ignites such thoughts in one's mind, so that like anyone can write poetry. That I say. So for me personally, it was like I just straight went into the poetry thing. And if I share a very insider thing, that I initially didn't think that I can even write poetry. So I overcame that fear and all. So I started writing poetry when I was in maybe ninth standard. It has been 4 years now. So it was not the goal at all to become an author or be a published author and that means write a book. But the the journey, as we all say, the journey leads you to the final mark, and here I am standing today. So I just kept writing and writing and writing, and when I saw that I have a huge bag full of poetry, so I thought maybe we should let other people know about it, and we should introduce the world with it.
Yes. So, when was the first idea of writing the poetry struck to you?
I was in ninth standard, as I said. So there was this English teacher of mine. So I'm still in uh, link with her, and it was as in my English class was going on, and we were reading a poem. So we were just discussing the structure of the poem and all. So,
Yes.
as anyone would think, so like a little, very little thought just kind of struck
Mm.
my mind that what if even I wrote a poem that maybe I would like even more. So, because when we are looking for something in a certain poem and we are not finding it out, so there's this little urge that we have in our minds. Why don't we write something ourselves? So I thought and thought and thought all about it, and then I even talked to my English teacher, like means how should I start writing and all. So she just told me just write. We can make it better afterwards. So I started writing a little, and all my first poem was maybe people who love coffee. There's also that is also mentioned in the book. So people who love coffee. It was as in I really like coffee. So I started writing out with things that are really common and really basic. But then, as I found out that okay, we can write better, we can write detailed things, we can write complex things. Then I
Yes,
towards that.
that's really amazing, sir. So, how does it feel to be a writer at such a young age?
Well, to be honest, it really feels amazing and really extraordinary. As when I go to school, as I said, I'm in class 12. So as I go to school, I find out that all of my friends, all of my teachers, they are really proud at me, like how I've attained such an achievement at like such a young age. And even
Yes.
so many of the people that I've talked, so many of the publishers and other authorities, I've seen them being awestruck by how a 16-year-old can do such things. And it really feels not as in I'm known and now that I'm being famous and all, but it's the whole vibe, it's the whole aesthetic, the whole thing that makes you think, okay, now I am an author, I am a poet, I can feel things, I can express it as I want. And it's all that, everything comes under the thing we call a poet's license, an author's license. How I can shape the language in whichever way I want, how I can present anything the way I want. It really makes things easier. And of course, you get a new identity. So earlier in my school, I was known as how I'm great at being technical and how I handle technical things. But now, apart from that, I'm also known as how I can be poetic, how I can be expressive, how I'm now an author and all that.
Yes. That's really amazing, sir. So, if you can describe your whole poetry collection in 3 words, what would they be?
Well, it's quite a tedious task to be honest, but let's just think. If I have to categorize or like define my book in 3 words, it would
Yes,
be cosmic, it would be prophetic, and it
yes,
would be timeless, to be honest. So the reason behind is because obviously we have a lot of cosmic connection through the book, and
yes,
I really have a lot of interest in cosmic things and everything related to space, astronomy, and cosmology. So the second thing, prophetic. Obviously, I've been always fascinated about prophecies and all. Like, how can we predict future and all? So
yes,
I've put in a lot of elements that straightly acts towards like the prophecy things. So it's obviously prophetic and timeless, yeah, because there have been moments in the book where the time doesn't even exist and where we are just all bound by time and all. So timeless it is. That's it.
that's really amazing, sir. And you mix fantasy, emotions, and metaphor beautifully. How do you balance them?
Yeah. Well, I believe fantasy is all around us, and
Yes,
metaphors. So the thing is that I didn't even try to balance it out. So the thing is, fantasy, emotions, and metaphors. These all things come together when we write something from our heart. If I'm writing about something, that comes from my fantasy. If I'm like feeling about it, it comes from my emotions, from my heart. And if I've already put it out, so it's the metaphors, because when there is fantasy, there is emotion. When there is emotions and fantasy, there are metaphors, and I believe it's a blend of all three that makes a poem fantastic, that makes it outstanding, that makes the reader read it again and again. And personally, I never try to balance out poems or like make tweaks so that it looks better or it reads better or it just sounds better, because that's not the goal of poetry. The goal of poetry is to express ourselves, to write what is to be written, and what the inner storms that the book is all about, that what our inner storms are feeling and what they are going through. So we just put it all out, and it's a very good thing for me that it all balances out with the fantasy, with our emotions, with the metaphors and all.
yes. And there are strong elements of memory, myths, and magic. What draw you to this theme?
Well, mystery, magic, and uh, can you please repeat the third word?
It's magic.
Okay. So the thing is that when we are writing about fantasy,
Yes.
so it's a very general thing that when we want to make things like things make feel logical, like suppose if I have to make a certain sort of thing feel logical in my world, but in
Yes.
real world it's not as logical as it may seem. So I have to introduce this element of magic, because when magic exists, even things that are senseless, they make sense. We all know. So many of my poems delve on the themes of magic, mystery, memory. I believe memory plays a very tragic and very crucial role when we write something, because memory could be sad, memories could be really heartwarming, it could be good, it could be bad, it could be negative, positive, etc. So whatever we write has a little, at least a little connection with our memories. Because if I have not experienced such things, I might not be able to write about that. So it
Yeah.
all comes through our experience, through our memories. Secondly, the myth, the mystery. So maybe it gets driven from my interest with these things, because I really love mystery of how we can find things that may not exist around us, but we are still living among them. And there are many things in our daily life that we may not pay enough attention to, but they really coexist with us. So that already almost seems like a mystery. And as I said, the third word, magic. Already we are living in a world where people talk about logical things. So often poets talk about magic, because I think magic and poetry, these are the two of the most connected things in this world, and poetry is the closest we can go to magic.
Yes, sir, definitely. And sir, you are a science student, so I want to know how that your in how it got influence into your poetry and writing style.
Well, it surely affects a little of my poetry, because um even just like I said, that people often look around for logical things, for things that make sense and all. So we are always running around here and there, looking for answers. So
Yes.
the thing is that if I'm writing about a certain thing, as in there is a poem in my book, The Silent Maw. It's about a ship that is maintained and run by a group, a fleet of undead people. They are
Mm.
not dead, they are not alive. But if we ask the normal person of how do you think about it, they would say definitely that this man has lost his mind. How can someone be like dead and alive at the same time? Because that is how poets think. But in my case, it's like I put in a little element of science in everything that I write. So there have been many poems that are straightly driven by scientific facts and all, such as the palette of silence. There has been Cosmic Child and all. In Cosmic Child, we have talked about how the particles that roamed around space after the Big Bang got collected in such a way that it formed me, that it formed you, and all everyone around us. And like logical thing that everyone asks, that we want logic and all. So I gave them the logic that if everything is made of particles, of the same particles,
Yes.
then maybe the planet we are living on, which is made of the same particles as I am, atoms and all. So maybe in that case, the Earth might be my sibling. So these are the things that drive logic into my poems, and many of the times it's the physics, the chemistry, and all of the scientific things behind my poems that make it feel logical, yet it stays in the poetry zone, where we are writing about things that may not happen in our world, but hypothetically there may be something that justifies them, and even science pushes it further.
Yes, sir. Can I know what is Noctherin? I'm sorry if I'm speaking, if I'm pronouncing it wrong. And how did you create it?
So, the main motive behind it was, as in, it can be said, the language I created it, Noctherin. So, the whole reason behind creating a whole language is, it was as in, I wanted people to believe, to realize that art, poetry, and all these things doesn't have to be bound by language. I've seen many people in my life telling me that, oh, we cannot write poems as you, we don't even know English. So, a main message, a very major thing for all of them is that, art and poetry, these things
Yeah.
are not bound by language, because language gives us a way of expression. But if we make it as a barrier, if we put it as a barrier, it will always confine us within its space. So
Mm.
I created a language, Noctherin. So it's a full-fledged language, not just a mock of type. It is in sort of doesn't have its own letters and all. It is all English alphabets, but they are presented in such a way that it represents a larger message, and it generally just works around symbolism. So if I have to present a certain fact, a certain thing, just in case. If I give out an example such as blood, if I have to say blood,
Yes.
it may represent a lot of other things. So we don't
Hmm.
have to put it in various other ways, but instead the single word that I framed for it, it was Kalzor, Kalzor.
Hmm.
The single word, it represents all of the weight of that English word, the blood, all of the weight of that, and each and every way it can be used in a sentence. And another thing that many of people struggle with is tenses and time. So in this language, we don't have tenses, we don't have time, because this language is
Exactly.
timeless, I would say, in a word. This language is
Yes.
timeless because you don't have to put things in a chronological order in order to make them sense. Because there are many a times when I have seen people being struggling with tenses and all. So if I have to say that this thing happened, this prophecy took place and all. So I don't have to be exactly sure about when or where. So that is the beauty of this language. And as I said, this language works with English. So there is this English words along with these Noctherin words, and the blend of them makes it really, really amazingly beautiful in the poetry world. And some of my poems even have this language in it. Some have a little effect of it, and the final poem, 51st, The Verse of the Storm, has a lot of words, a lot of sentences from this language, and I believe the readers must have loved it a lot.
Yes. And sir, can I ask which poem in the books mean most to you and why?
Well, in that case, I would say, as in our parents say, that if I have around 51 child, just an example, so I won't say that this is my favorite one and that is my favorite. But in that case, maybe one poem would be my most likable because I wrote it the first, or like another poem could be my favorite because I wrote it the earliest, or that is the latest poem, or something that I am most connected to, or something that I'm emotionally tuned to. But in that case, I would say there could be this one poem that burns the paper, that I wrote all the way back in 2023, yeah, when I was class 10. So the reason why it is most connected to me is because I've always fascinated about being a poet, an author. So that poem really delves out how an author and the pen, the ink, how ink is very powerful, how it holds such strength that it burns the paper. It
Yes.
also showcases how paper has to go through such things, how paper goes through such acts of ink, that it holds so much weight of our poetry and our emotions and our thoughts and all. So it just really showcases how ink is the almighty force throughout the poet, and how the ink burns the paper. It was a really, I would say, a little unfiltered piece from my side, and I really enjoyed it. And even my teachers and my friends, my peer partners and all, they loved it a lot in the beginning, even before the book was published. So initially, I was not going to put it in the book, but then my friends and teachers forced me to that you should put it. That deserves it. So I kept it in it.
So, talking about your friends and teacher, what was their first reaction when they got to know that you have written such a beautiful poetry collection?
Well, my friends, to be honest, four of my friends that I've been the most close to, so they were not exactly awestruck because they knew what I was going through, what I was working on in all the days, mainly in May 2025 this year and all the way through maybe last year December. So I always told them that I'm working on this and this thing, and they always told me, okay, that's great. We will be there if anything is needed and all. And even my teachers, if I have to list, my librarian in my school, and my English teacher, my past English teacher, and so many more teachers. Actually, so many of my teachers know me personally in my school. So they all were like, okay, we are with you. If you need any help from our side, we are there. They always guide me. So in that case, when I came out as a poet, their reaction was generally, if I say, if in one word, it was proud. They all were so proud of me that how a student of them has achieved such thing, such fate, and how I've been a poet in such an early age, in just 16, 17 years of age, in class 10th, 11th. And there is a very senior teacher of mine. He used to teach me English in all the way back in sixth. So he's a very senior English teacher. So his first reaction was that so many people have to wait so much time in their life, have to work a lot and a lot and a lot of years in their life to achieve such feat and to be a poet and all. But he was really proud that I achieved that feat in just 16 years of age, and now that I'm 17. So, and basically, it was just a feeling that maybe very rare of people can experience in their lifetime. So my friends were really happy. They were all really supportive throughout the journey. And so many of the poems in my book, they are also driven by the prompt, the things, and the conversations related to them. And my past English teacher, she also told me that, beta, you should write about this thing in the book, and it would really mean a lot to me and all. So I respected her and wrote like two or three poems that are like straightly, directly related to my friends and my teachers.
Sir, can I know what's your writing process? How do you come up with the idea of a poem and sorry, write it down?
Well, that is a secret, of course. But if I have to put it in words a little, it would be like, you cannot force a person to write a poem. As in, if I'm having a person with me, I would say, okay, you have to write this poem or that poem. So it's not actually or like physically possible, because when we are given a task of writing, our mind goes through the past knowledge, the past experiences we have. But to collect all of them into a poetic piece, we have to think with our heart, we have to think with our mind, through our everything, because that is what makes it a poem. If I say my personal process, it goes through like, I get a word, I get an experience, or something that I see in my daily life, or just a story that goes through my mind even at any time of the day. If I'm just going out playing with my friends, or I'm in school attending physics lecture, it could be possible. Or if I'm sleeping at night, it could be possible that something struck my mind and I have to jot it down instantly at somewhere, and so that I can wake up, and whenever it's free time, I write out a poem with it. It happens a
Yes.
lot that I made a list of prompts of things that I have to write about, and I write a lot of things about that. Like, as in, if I recently I got an experience of how someone of my relatives, they said, someone from your past life may have lived here, that you are wandering so much around here. So it just struck my mind that maybe it could be a possibility that someone from a past life could be living around here, but I don't even know. So I waited for so many days, because I had my exams going on recently. So I still jotted it down and kept it in my drawer. So after all these days, I still caught it on and wrote a poem about it. So the thing is, we experience things, we find things in our daily life, and then we think a lot about it. And through our experiences, through our emotions, through our brain, it all shapes out the poem, and that's how the writing process goes for me.
That's really amazing, sir. And you mentioned this is a part of big universe. Can you share a hint of what's coming next?
Well, it's been a lot of time since this came out, so the next step would surely be the second part of this trilogy. It would be Storm's Return, and the work on that project is obviously work in progress. So maybe we could be seeing that in end of 2025 or maybe early 2026. So that could be something we can see. And the third part of the trilogy may be announced in maybe mid 2026 or maybe after that. And as in the whole universe that you talked about, a novel project is also going on. That is the whole world, I think, that I'm building right now, and it's just built from scratch. So everything is in that world, everything that world holds is a lot different than the world we are living in. And many of the poems in my current book are straightly connected to that book of mine. And yeah, I've mentioned it in the author notes in my book, that how this poem is connected to the novel I'm writing about. And that is all. Next, we'll see what the audience asks for.
And sir, if this book, the your poetries, when a reader reads it, how what message do you want them to take away from this poetry collection?
Well, so many of my friends have read this book. So many of my teachers have read this book,
Yes.
and maybe other people, a lot of people that I may not know have read this book. So the one thing that I have always talked about and I want them to take away from this book is that how each of us hold a certain storm inside of us. Each of
Yes.
us have a raging storm inside of us, and everyone is struggling through one thing or another, or like maybe not struggling, but they are facing certain things. Maybe if they are happy, maybe if they are sad, or whatever emotion they are going through. So there is that storm that rages inside us all of the time. But I've seen many people that just keep it confined within their hearts and all, and they don't pour it out. So in
Yes.
my thoughts, the book Storms Versus, it's all about how, sorry, it's all about how the storms inside of us are writing out, or like as in if I have a storm inside of me, it rages with what I've written in my book. So
Yes.
that message to all is how you can also shape the storms inside of you into something meaningful. What if the storm inside of you that is raging is not at all something negative? It could be positive. It surely would be positive. So everyone should give at least one chance to the storm that is raging inside of them
Yes.
to come out and just do wonderful things. That is all.
Yes. So it was a great chance to interview you for this great poetry collection, sir. Thank you so much for joining us in today's interview.
Thank you very much. It was a really wonderful experience for me to talk about my little journey, and I'll be really grateful if so many of people read my book and go through my work of art. And it was really a good experience. Thank you.
Thank you so much.